Why don't you go and get booked?
Hello, keynote speakers of the world. Let's get stuck in. You know who I am. My name's down the bottom of the screen. The company I own, run, and work with is SpeakMark. Okay, so 2021 is knocking on our collective doors, and we have a few weeks of downtime ahead where we can really focus our attention on sales and marketing. Now, obviously, we're all going to kick back a little bit, but stay focused, people, because this is a really, really good time to reset your goals and focus on what you need to do next year, 2021, to get set. Now, I'm just reminded of an old adage here that goes, your mind is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. Now, I'm sure you've heard that before. At one stage there, I was saying it so much that I thought I'd actually made it up myself. But someone said, no, it's already been done. So great to have your company today. We're going to get through a bunch of stuff. And when I'm run dry of stuff, then that's when the show ends. So I don't know whether it's going to go 50 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, or an hour and a half. But let's get going. So 2021 is going to be an epic year of growth and success for many of you. And I can predict, I have a crystal ball, who will succeed and who will not succeed by one characteristic of your business. And we're going to go through a little bit about that now. So Gary Vee said recently that patience is the core ingredient to success for most people in business. Now, this should not be confused with lack of action. In fact, more often than not, that is the root of the lack of bookings for keynote speakers. And it can be things like analysis paralysis, trying to get it right, everything, your ducks all lined up. I'm not good enough. I'm too scared. I don't have time. I don't know how. I'm not that active on LinkedIn. I'm just sort of, that's not an excuse. I mean, you've basically got to get stuck in here. I mean, if you're really serious about becoming a top flight keynote speaker, or if you are a keynote speaker that is kind of getting there, but just needs to go over the top to push that little bit harder, some of the things we're going to teach you today are going to help you to do that. Now, simply because it takes years to get your shit together to the point where you are just damn bookable. It takes a longer time than you want it to. And one thing I know about keynote speakers is, and I've said this before, they want it all. They want it now. But you can't have it right now. You have to work your booty off. So if you're not getting the results you want right now, chin up. I mean, let's face it, the pandemic pretty well crushed the event space over the last 12 months, which has made running a keynote speaking business a very ordinary conveyance throughout 2020. And for those of you who have been in the course for quite some time, I'm pretty sure you understand that some of the things that we've taught you obviously have come to a grinding halt. But there are others that we've been talking about for the last 6 to 8 months around social selling and working your LinkedIn profile to a point where you are getting connected with the right people. Then those of you that have been doing that have been planting seeds, the right sort of seeds for a crop to grow somewhere down the line. You got to grow the crop, water the seeds, and watch those babies come up. Now, one thing I'm trying to do today is not to say I mean, I've said 3 million times throughout my podcast or live streams, and I'm trying so hard not to do it. So I'm happy if you count the number of times I say today. I'm trying really hard not to do it, but it's just one of those things. And I've noticed other people I've had on my shows do the same thing. And I think it's just one of those, and I usually go, but I'm trying to pause. One of those things where we can be mindful of it and try and eradicate it, but it's always going to pop up now and then again, because when we're live like this or when we're doing a podcast, we are under a little bit of pressure. But it's good to know that you have someone like me saying it's not great, it doesn't come across as something that is good for listeners. 1 or 2 is okay, but saying that word over and over again, it's not the greatest thing. And you will look back at your videos or you will listen to your podcast and you go, my God, I'm saying too much. So hopefully I don't slip back into it when my mind slips off into normal overdrive. Okay, so you can blame the pandemic or prior to the pandemic, speaker bureaus for not booking you, for a manager or agent not hitting the pavement hard enough for you, but really it comes down to your own efforts. What you do each day, how much time you grind it out. I mean, are you consistent? Do you have a good few weeks and then you take the foot off for whatever reason? If you do, it will impact your business. So the patience factor is really key, and the most successful keynote speakers are working on their sales and marketing long after you have put your feet up. I get a bird's eye view of Matthew Pollard's business and Keith Abraham's to a lesser extent, and both of whom Michelle and I are working with in the US space. And they're both relentless. I mean, sure, they're working with us on their speaker booking pipeline, through LinkedIn and some other areas, but they're working on many other sales and marketing tracks of their own volition. They're not waiting around for Michelle and I to pull a rabbit out of the hat. They're in, day out, spending more time in every hour, in every day, in every month, in every year, and that is the secret to their success. Now, sure, those two speakers are incredibly gifted keynote speakers in their own right, but without the grind and grit, their success would not be anywhere near what they have both respectively reached. It's just one of those things where I watch them and I go, wow, I can't believe it. They are driven. I think that is the word. They are driven by their sales and marketing process. They don't let anything else get in the way. That is their main focus, and they stay on track 100% of the time. So let me tell you a story about the mindset of a sales extraordinaire. And I've called it the 17-year story by Keith Abraham. We had Keith Abraham on Motivational Mythbusters a little while back, and he recounted the story to us about a prospect that he chased for 17 years. Now, you would think to yourself, 17 years? But for 17 years, Keith sent an email or something to them every year, probably a couple of times a year, knowing Keith, because he has a system set up in the back end of his business. It's a sales and marketing system that he's been working for, close to 20 years. So every year, Keith sent this person and they'd say the same thing over and over again. No thanks. Thanks a lot for your help. Thanks for your message, but we don't have anything for you. On the 17th year of Keith reaching out to this particular company, it's a large company, they asked him, I think they sent him an email and said, we'd like you to come and speak for us. Well, maybe Keith nearly fell off his chair, whatever it was, but obviously that just tells the story of persistence and patience paying off. Now, since the time Keith has worked with this company, he has done over $1 million in licensing with that company. So was the 17-year investment in time worth it? I think it was. I think it definitely was. I mean, if you could find a way of, maybe spending a couple of minutes every month or every year in sending something to someone and then getting paid $1 million for that, that's a pretty good return, and you won't find an investment like that anywhere else. So the mindset of a sales extraordinaire is the long game. You must play the long game with your people, and this is why we go on so readily about using a CRM or using a system within the LinkedIn Sales Navigator space that is traceable, measurable, so it can be improved and acted upon on a regular basis. Without a CRM, without using Sales Nav and LinkedIn in a way that is a business savvy kind of a methodology behind it, it's impossible to actually keep track of these people who you've been reaching out to, like Keith was with his 17-year story. And I love that story. I think it's just a fantastic way of pointing out to you guys what is required. Now, more recently, I've noticed that some speaker bureaus are becoming speaker coaches, okay? And that's fair enough because the pandemic has put a huge spanner in the works for agencies. But blow me down, the speaker bureau model is inbound in nature. It's a marketing strategy where many people look through hundreds of keynote speakers to make a choice, or where a corporate company has a relationship with an account manager who also has a relationship with a bunch of regularly booked speakers that are safe for them, that they know if they send this speaker to the client, they'll get the client back next year. Now, they're basically playing judge, jury, and executioner based on factors which are not conducive to your bloody business. Now, if they can trust you, if they can't trust you, they can't book you. Now, it reminds me of which came first, the chicken or the egg. So how do you get into that space? Well, it's tough, and it's fair enough, because they need to look after their business. There will always be a place for speaker bureaus, and I have many friends who either work or own a speaker bureau. I'm not condemning them. I'm rather pointing out that their model is not conducive to running a sustainable business for yourself. So just be a little bit careful about who you're getting your advice from in terms of how to run your speaker business. Be very careful. Now, if marketing is a medium where we use to attract many people, much like a bureau, because there's little outbound action at most speaker bureaus. Perhaps this has changed since the pandemic. Perhaps their exclusives received outbound sales efforts. I'm not sure. But regardless, it's an outbound sales model. It's an inbound sales model. And it doesn't service all listed speakers equally. And that is a fact. Because what happens is someone will call up and say, I'm looking for a speaker of such and such. Now, if you're listed on there and you haven't been booked before, but you're the right person, well, the fact is that, you're probably not going to get the work. And that's what I mean by it's not a level playing field for everybody listed on their websites. Now, I'm sorry if I've offended anyone in that part of the industry, but I get really passionate about this. My whole focus is saving your fucking business, not worrying about what bureau owners think of me. I have great respect for these people for what they do, but if we all go broke going down that route, what's the use? They play an important role in our industry, such as providing large corporates with a one-stop shop for supplier contracts. With larger companies, it takes a few months to set supplier contracts up, and they don't want a supplier contract with every speaker they hire. It makes sense for them to go to a bureau, but it's not a lock, stock, and barrel hard, fast rule. If you're good enough, large companies will book you directly, and they will take the time to put you on their preferred supplier list. Now, as I was saying, if marketing is a medium we use to attract many people and go out to thousands of people, then sales is a medium that we do the one-on-one dance with. Now, if there are many salespeople, we can do many sales. If there is one person, we can only do one sale at a time. And I want you to understand the difference between sales and marketing. Why? Because that is where your focus needs to be in 2001 on LinkedIn, putting in place a consistent strategy to create conversations which lead us to a sale. Right, so if we get the messaging right and if we get our target audience right on LinkedIn, particularly with Sales Navigator, then we hit the mark every time and we create conversations. Conversations lead to building rapport leads to higher level conversations lead to bookings. It's as simple as that. So a good content strategy coupled with a daily LinkedIn outreach effort is by far the most economical and effective way for a keynote speaker to peddle their shiznhazen. So I can bet my bottom dollar that recent speaker bureaus that are doing, turn your speaker bureau into this or turn your speaker, do not mention any of this, like conversational selling, social selling, or a good or organic content strategy. Why? Because you only know what you do on a day-to-day basis, right? You basically follow the code. And if you're doing what you did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, in late 2020 where we are, you've missed the bus, bucko. So whether or not some of these bureaus might get a lot of help having a look at what's happening in social selling, because I believe that is where the future is. And I think it's more around the sales than it is around the mass marketing. Mass marketing is okay and it works in some areas of business. And, obviously if I had the money, I'd probably put $50,000 into an international marketing campaign for this particular program. Why don't you go and get booked? Because I do believe it delivers value to people if they do the work that is required. I mean, there are people's lives on the line here. There's more than just making money. You know, teaching keynote speakers, I have the total understanding that when they come to me and they spend money in the course that I provide, that I need to, I need to help them, run their business and make money from their business. Now, I love making money. Here's that money. We all do, but there's always that thing in the back of my mind that if people are making money, spending money with me, I want to make sure that they get value for that money. We all love making money, right? That's why we're in business. But I just can't sit and watch and not let you know the facts. So once again, I apologize to any of my Speaker Bureau friends out there if I've uncovered your secrets or whatever it might be that you're trying to repivot and do something else. But you really have to be careful. So you need to learn and understand and activate your own sales and marketing strategies. Take responsibility. Be accountable to yourself, and take whatever comes from agencies or bureaus as a cherry on the cake. I'll do anything to assist you, particularly if you're part of the Why Don't You Go and Get Booked team. I think most of you know that. But I'm talking to all keynote speakers here at every level. It's time to wake up, get active. And if you're already doing this, disregard everything I'm saying and get the fuck back to work. That's all I can say. Off you go. You're done. If you're doing sales and marketing, like 24/7, and you're living and breathing it, then that is what you should have been doing in the first place, and keep doing it. Don't listen to me. Okay, my guest today is Michal. Now, that some of you are dyslexic, so I always have to check myself and use the Bohanes rather than the Bohanes. So it's Michal Bohanes, and he'll be coming on in a little while. The reason I got Michal on is to show you exactly what I mean around conversational selling and social selling. We have much in common, Michal and I, with our strategies, and he is a very articulate and successful LinkedIn outreach coach who we can all learn from, and basically stay tuned because there is some fantastic stuff coming up. Now, I'm just looking for my social media panel here because I'm sure I had a little click there from a message from someone, but I don't have it up at the moment, so I apologize if I'm not responding to you. Plus, when I see these things pop up and people go, oh, just hang on a minute, let me have a look at that, they lose the flow. All right, let's talk about LinkedIn for a little to segue into, I think I used there, so my apologies, to segue into what Michal is going to talk about. Okay, I just wanted to talk about likes. They're very overrated. I've just done 2 posts, and I won't tell you what they are, but one post has got, I think, 11 likes and 9 comments, and the other post has got 4 likes and 2 comments. The post with 4 likes and 2 comments has got somewhere around about 400 views, and the other post with 11 likes and 9 comments has got something like 200 views. And that is a good example of why likes are overrated. Now, for those of you in engagement hubs, I'm sorry, but you're dreaming. Unless you think 60 or 70 people you have supporting you on an ongoing basis are going to buy your services, you're sort of, it's just not happening from what I can see. I could be wrong, but from what I can see online, I think it just looks too predictable. Anyway, the see more text that pops up on your headline is much more worthy of your attention, as it does affect the LinkedIn algorithm. And if people click this, if they're clicking on that, hang on a second, I've got a few issues here because I need to wind down. Okay, if people are clicking on the see more space that pops up after your first few lines in LinkedIn, the algorithm clicks off more than it does around likes. Okay, just to give you the drum here. So if you want to put a controversial first couple of lines in there, or something that's going to grab people's attention, like call yourself a keynote speaker, or whatever it might be, that someone will go, oh, what's that? The LinkedIn algorithm for the see more text just under the text does more for you than likes. So I mean, I was surprised when I saw that, but I've got that from a very good source. So use a killer line. That first line has to be, don't use the first thing that pops into your head. Put some thought into it and come up with a attention-grabbing line that will grab your viewers' attention, and it'll make them click to see more. If you really want to get some mileage on LinkedIn, also connect with people who have a huge support base and write a comment on their post. I mean, this is free advertising space, right, for your profile, so use it. It's like a billboard, you know. Put something in there that's got relevance to that particular conversation, and that person will probably like it and comment on it, and other people will like it as well. I've been trying this out, and we're all trying to help each other out when we're online doing LinkedIn, you know, looking to get a little bit more leverage from our comments and those sorts of things. Just go on there and to these people that have got huge. I mean, you could even do it with Gary V, you know, like I know I've done it a few times with the amazing Shay Rowbottom, because I'm such a big fan of what she's doing with video. And you know that I think video is king, and where you can create video that is as good as what Shay's doing, I want to be involved in that conversation. I want to be, you know, actively around that, because I think you're going to get more. As I said, they're like billboards. Add to the conversation, put some thought into your comments, and try not to push your own agenda. Don't be putting your own, you know, website up there or something like that, but add to the conversation. All right, Sales Navigator. What an amazing tool. I mean, sure, it's a long way short of a robust CRM, but for those of you who are in the Why Don't You Go and Get Booked course, we're currently putting together a lesson on how to get the best out of this tool. I mean, Michelle has basically squeezed every little last inch. She's been over every area of that tool. And we finally come up with a really effective, I mean, this is after hundreds of hours on the platform, and we're still actively working with a number of keynote speakers who we would provide management services for by doing daily outreach. And we do it daily. Why? Because it works and it's money in our pocket. We wouldn't do it otherwise. We wouldn't spend the hours we do constantly, but you have to be consistent with it. It has to happen quickly. These things you can't send a message out and 3 weeks later get back to the person and expect to have the same engagement as you've got if you do it the day after. You know, and we spend our time, you know, like incessantly on LinkedIn doing. I mean, it's exciting. For me, it's like, you know, the old days when I had a really good list of phone numbers that I could call and know that I was going to make some sales, and it was in a different industry than this. But once I was given the list from Microsoft of their top, I think it was 2,500 customers in Australia, and I was asked to call it. And I was new in the IT industry at the time, but that list, what it gave me was direct access to a target audience that bought Microsoft licensing, which is what the company that I was working for sold. So I quickly went from zero to hero. I had people from, you know, large banks calling me, asking me if they could discuss this special that I had on around Microsoft licensing, open licensing. So it was all about the list that I had. Now, what Sales Navigator has done for us is it just pinpoints your target audience. I mean, you can do so much with the system that we've put together. It is incredible, and you can also track every person that you put through your LinkedIn Sales Navigator efforts. You can track those people and send them message after message after message after message until you believe that is no longer, and then they can basically move on to a list that basically says not suitable. You don't even have to kick them off of your LinkedIn profile, because as Keith says, right, 17 years. So imagine reaching out to someone for 17 years on LinkedIn. That's where I'm heading. That's where my head is. My head is no longer it doesn't work, because a no is just the next step to a yes. So in most cases, daily outreach doesn't work the way you want it to, because I know keynote speakers, right? And I'm going to say it again, they want it all and they want it now, and it doesn't work like that. So my goal is for you is to try and change your mindset into thinking longer term. So you send a message out and someone books you. That's not the way it works. It takes patience and persistence, and you need a methodology that allows you to track each of the people that you've reached out to. Now, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And LinkedIn for many is a slapdash Harry mishmash kind of a stuff all over the place, people in your network. I mean, it gets very hard to track and remember or recall leads or conversations that you've had, even in a CRM, unless you've got that tweaked properly. And most of you would be looking at the CRM that you're using now going, this doesn't make any sense to me. But there is a way through Sales Navigator that you can do this, which requires about 10 hours a week to maintain, and that's your outreach and your maintenance. I mean, what I'm doing is, as I'm getting connections coming through, I'm excited about someone connecting with me, because that means, or receiving my first message, because that means they've now moved to another stage in the process. And when I've basically tagged these people as received the connection, first message received, I can then go on to the exciting part about building some rapport with them. And the message after that, I may even pitch, or I may send something that is a little bit more geared towards getting some work. But it takes 3 or 4 little bits of interaction with that particular prospect. Then they will be seeing the keynote speaker, whoever we may be doing the outreach for, they'll be seeing their post, so their organic content strategy kicks in, and we get that 10 pieces that Kerwin Ray talks about, 10 to 20 times of seeing you on LinkedIn. They become comfortable with you. They know you're a reputable person, etc., etc. So the more hours you put in, the better results you get. And I'm very excited about social selling, conversational selling. It's definitely the way forward for keynote speakers. And if you don't know how to do it, you can jump onto the course and we'll show you, guide you through, and work with you on your own processes so you can get work through this. So how many of your LinkedIn connections are currently live? Just think about it. You've got 5,000 connections or 10,000 connections. Big deal. How many of those are you actually connecting with, talking with, building rapport with? I'm going to say less than 1%, but I could be wrong. But most people, that is the case. And I'm very particular about who I'm personally connecting with, because like you and most people, I have thousands of contacts who, when I started, I thought it was a game of let's see who can get the most contacts, right? I don't want anyone looking at my LinkedIn profile seeing I've only got 300 contacts. So I'll ask you to think about this again. How many of your LinkedIn connections are live? People you can transact with, linked in with how many of your people do you have potential commercial connections with? Not just every Tom, Dick and Harry, Rita, Pauline or Manuel or Mary that hits you up. I mean, I'm not taking anyone onto my personal LinkedIn profile unless there is some upside for both of us. It's got to be two-way traffic. Excuse me. How's my ERMs going? I think I'm going pretty good. Michelle? Yeah. Michelle's over here clicking buttons, so she does a phenomenal job and has just really picked up this live stream stuff so well, which is why you can see me in a coffee cup at the moment. And I love coffee. Who loves coffee? Yay! All right, one more note about LinkedIn before I might move on. Don't use smiley faces or thumbs up or anything like that or GIFs when you're communicating with executives on LinkedIn. Leave it out if you're doing it, right? I don't need to spell it out. Maintain a professional attitude in everything you do when you are writing messages or conversing or sending people stuff when you're doing your LinkedIn outreach. Just remain professional at all times. This is something that Matthew Pollard taught me. And being the personality like I am, I like sending a little smiley face, making people feel good. Oh, they'll get it. They'll get me. But they actually don't. They're not. You've got to remember that they're not representing themselves. And if they're on Facebook or doing something socially without a commercial application involved, then there may be a place for that. But when you're actually dealing with people who you're going to be doing business with, they are going to bring you into their company, they want a professional every time, and they'll go with a professional over someone who's kind of like, let's have a good time. And sure, it's good to have fun while you're working, but when you're doing the dance, when you're inviting your prospective clients over to your part of the world, into your space, and you're saying, hey, bring me in, I'm a trusted authority in what I do and I'm fully professional, you can't take chances by giving them the thumbs up sign. The thumbs up sign for mine should be taken off. I don't use it anymore because I probably got a swift kick up the pants with a soft pair of slippers from one Mr. Pollard at some stage for using it. And it's a great lesson for us all. Just leave it out. Okay, I said last week, and I'm going to say it every time, a couple of weeks ago, support your industry by supporting each other. I mean, the events industry will recover. I've no doubt about that. I'm sure we're all in the same boat. You know, vaccines. Oh, I don't want to talk about COVID or pandemics or anything like that. I'm totally over it, as I'm sure you are. But I've been doing my level best to bring guests on to the shows that I produce, such as Motivational Mythbusters. And if you are online here and you haven't seen that show, jump on. I'm really excited about where it's going with Peter Turin and Laurie Montague, my co-hosts, and some of the guests that we've got lined up next year. We're going to have some superstars on next year, and I'm talking superstars. Why? Because we set goals for this show. This will be a long-running show. It's not going anywhere. We're going to be doing it week in, week out. But we've had people on like Nicole Santa from Events Buzz 360 last week. Now, if you're in the business for a long time, jump on Events Buzz 360 and have a look what Nicole's doing. So I'm sharing and liking as much as I possibly can on LinkedIn to show my support for the industry. Now, in the past, I've been of the opinion that I can only support you if you reciprocate the support I give. And maybe I've been a bit heavy-handed in some areas with my opinions, but I just think that our personal differences and idiosyncrasies need to play a lesser role at this time while our industry is in recovery. And we do need to perhaps, be a little bit more positive and move ahead with empathy. Daniel, if you're listening, I love your stuff, mate. If someone else is not playing the game and you like and share their posts with nothing in return, like their posts more, be supportive and kind of each other. It happened to me last week, a very high profile person, or reasonably high profile. I shared his stuff, didn't even get a like off him or a mention, and that's okay. I mean, it's just the way it goes. He may not be that prolific. He may be good at posting on LinkedIn, but is not actually moving into the space where he's supporting the rest of the industry, and that is fine. Okay, so we're up to that point now where I'm going to bring Michael in. So I'm just going to check with my producer that Michael is with us and we are good to go. All right, so today my guest is Michal Bohanes. Now I'm just going to bring Michael straight in. I met Michael online, as we do, not so much in a dating sense, but certainly from a respect point of view. Michael was producing some phenomenal content which I thought was valuable, certainly for keynote speakers, but also for business people as well. So let me bring Michael in. G'day, mate. How are you?
Hey, Terry. Good day. How are you?
Good, mate. So let's explain
What was
first.
my Aussie accent?
Yeah,
what was my
you've been
attempt?
So where are you exactly now in the world?
So I am in Austria, which is a delight to be talking to you in Australia because many people in the world are mixing those two up. So we can now really make it clear. Austria here, Australia there.
So do you want my version of the Austrian accent?
Go for it.
We're going down the ski slopes tonight for a good ski. No, is that a bit more German? See, I go. Sorry?
It sounded a bit like the Swedish chef from the Muppets.
Well, I go straight to the ski slopes, right? Because I remember the Olympics with the famous Austrian skiers. I even forget the guy's name. Mayer? Yeah, that's the guy? There you go.
Yeah.
So that's why I associate Austria with snow slopes and stuff, but that's not the case, right? You're living in which city?
Well, I live close to Vienna, so we don't have many ski slopes here, but it's a 1 or 2 hours drive, so it's not too far.
Right, and something you did as a youngster, I imagine, jumping up there on the ski slopes and wishing down the slopes, or you didn't go that route?
Well, not this year. You mean? Not yet. I'm still here to do that. We haven't had much snow yet.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move on. So when we sort of joined online, as I said, I was really impressed by the articulation that you were able to produce through your LinkedIn messages. And firstly, you want to just talk a little about what you do and what your business is.
Sure, absolutely. So I help people to find clients on LinkedIn, and I say I want them to develop the skills to just talk to them naturally, get them on the phone and sell them the service. And it's especially this talk to them naturally that is apparently a little bit difficult for some people, because as soon as they get online, they get a little bit stilted. And especially when you're at the beginning of your business, when you are making less than $10,000 a month, for example, outbound messaging will be the main thing that will get you clients. And this is what I help people to develop as a skill. Content matters as well,
Yeah.
but less so in the beginning than outbound messaging. So I help my clients to develop that skill.
And this comes under the heading of social selling or conversational selling. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that's pervaded the marketplace since, both you and I were probably on the phone or, doing sales in a different sense, even up to 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, no, it's interesting how a lot of marketing up until a couple of years ago tended to simply just be broadcasting a message. And yes, there were many ways how you could make it very specific, and targeted, but it still is it's a one-way communication. Hey, we have this amazing tool, check it out. Hey, we have this amazing ebook. It's always this one-sided communication. And what conversational selling has brought in is replicating the feeling that you get and the experience you get when you meet somebody at an industry event, for example. You meet them that's why I call it the cocktail party scenario, right? You would not start a conversation in a cocktail party by saying, "Hi there, I'm Michael, and I have an amazing ebook that I think you should check out." I mean, they would run away from you, rightly so. And conversational selling has introduced this element that you can, start building rapport. You say, "Hey, I see you posted something really interesting. I wanted to ask you about that. What do you think about blah, blah?" And then you just, start a conversation like a human would. And this is the amazing thing that LinkedIn has provided us, because the amount of information you find about someone that can serve as the basis for building rapport is just spectacular. And so
I agree.
conversation is that alone.
So obviously I've noticed you've had some prickly conversations that I'm very interested in how you handle those, and you do it really well. But this is a numbers game, right, Michael? So it's not something where if you do it 10 times, you're probably not going to get a result. So what type of numbers are we talking about with regards to how consistent do you have to be with regards to your LinkedIn outreach?
Yeah, I'm happy to share my numbers. I have them right in front of me here. So my accept ratio, so reaching out to completely cold prospects, is 72%. Then my first message response ratio is 61%. And then the first message to getting them on the call is 14%. Okay, so I start 100 conversations and I get 14 calls out of that, out of which approximately 2 maybe become clients, because those are early stage screening calls. So that's that. So out of 100 conversation starts, you maybe get between 1 and 2 clients. And so that overall, if you just count all of that up, it's probably 20 to 30 hours of time invested conversation that takes to get a client.
Which is phenomenal when you put that up against a traditional sales model. I know that we would do hundreds of calls, and the problem with the phone in the phone days was that you'd have gatekeepers, you'd have voicemail, you'd have people not answering the phones or leaving a message not coming back. But we don't have that problem here, right?
That is correct. We don't have that problem. We have other problems, right? So for example, on LinkedIn, sometimes target audiences are just not very present. They're not active, right? I am, for example, lucky that my target audience, which is coaches, consultants, small B2B, are very active on LinkedIn. But there are, for example, I work with a real estate client whose clients are not as active. Of course, their deal sizes are huge. So they can, of course, spend way more time on any individual new prospect that they have, right? But still, it's the same principle. You just find out something about them. You just need to find a good angle to start the conversation. They will definitely not get a 61% first message response ratio, no way. But they don't need that much because their deal size is 200 grand. And so it's perfectly okay if their response rate is lower. So it's all a numbers game. You're correct. It is a numbers game, but pretty good.
So
pretty good numbers game.
I know that I'm working with one speaker at the moment, and he's up around 40% connection rate. We're using video as the connection message there, without a pitch, more or less just sort of introducing and saying hi. What do you think the secret to your high success rate for first connection? Because that's very high.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know people who have even higher accept rates, but they are usually selling to salespeople who accept practically anyone. But in my niche, it's relatively rare, and the reason why mine is high is because I do take the time to connect with people over content, right? So it's not that there's two strands how you can find out something about people. If you go via Sales Navigator, you find demographic data about them, job, company size, and previous employment history, and so on. And then there's the content side. People are engaging with content on LinkedIn. And what do you think is a stronger element for them? What are they more passionate about?
Content.
Their job title?
Yep.
But content, exactly. Content. So if you start a conversation with someone saying, hey, I saw you recently commented on this post. I wanted to ask you a question about that. How many do you think will respond? That's the secret. It just takes a bit more time. Yes, it is more labor intensive, but the connection rate is through the roof. And the key thing is, and it's really, really important, is that not only the connection rate is up, you now have something to talk about. Like when I at a cocktail party, if the only thing you know about a person is that they're an HR manager, right? It's pretty bad because like, how do you strike up a conversation? Hey, so how is HR managing these days? Haha. You cannot start a real conversation. But if you know that they really love mindfulness meditation, that's a great start because they've declared themselves they love mindfulness. So you can say, hey, so what kind of mindfulness practice do you do? I'm curious. Boom, you're in a conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. And as you said, like if you went to a cocktail party, you wouldn't walk up to someone and say, "Hi, my name's Terry. Let's get on a call. I think you might need my services." And this is so. What are some of the common mistakes that are made when people are doing first connection messages, Michael?
So I think the mistakes can be firmly placed in two categories, and they're on extremes of a spectrum. One is the pitch slappers, who just think that the only way how you can start a conversation is by immediately presenting you with their offer. Otherwise, your attention will be gone, which is terrible. You cannot sell someone something if you haven't built rapport with them. And yes, I know it's a volume game. And so people will say that, but I do this and I spam 500 people, I get one client out of that. Yes, that's possible. But you will annoy the remaining 499. You will destroy your personal brand. So that is one mistake. And the other mistake, which I empathize with much more because I myself used to be very scared of selling. And I'm happy to actually, it's a really interesting topic, I hope at least, that how I overcame that. But because selling was a huge issue for me. But they are scared to bring anything up that could come across as salesy. And they just have endless rapport building conversations until the other person gets bored. So you just ask about, something that they said in the content and so on. And then they just keep going at it, while it's already has been time to kind of bring up a little bit more, let's talk business here. So people overdoing the rapport building phase, that's the other side of the spectrum of mistakes.
Yes, I noticed the guy, the pitch slappers you talked about. A lot of the guys that do, lead generation and stuff like that, they're quite aggressive. I noticed on Matthew's feed last week, Matthew basically says no thanks, like quite politely, and the guy comes back and said, but if I could really, really show you how to get more leads and how to get more business, do you think you could change your mind? So that sort of approach doesn't work because there's no rapport built there at all, is there, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, especially in services like these where it's about lead generation, the only reason why somebody will work with you is because they somewhat like you as a person, right? There has to be a certain level of connectedness. And that's why, by the way, it's so important to be on video, to regularly do video. So, I mean, kudos to you that you're doing so much video yourself, and the clips from your podcast are just very interactive, and I love all the visuals in it. That's important because you are introducing your unique flavor that you bring to the world, and that is so important in any high competition and in any competitive space.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this thing you touched on, fear of sales, because that is something that's prevalent in most people who come into business do so off the back of a passion of some kind. And often they won't understand the basics of sales and marketing, and they will stumble through it, and very often will actually die a tragic death because they're not willing to learn something about sales. So what is fear of sales? Why does it happen? And how can people overcome it?
So I'm gonna help your audience now overcome their fear of selling in 2 minutes. Okay. So the main problem with the fear of selling is because you, in your mind, are thinking that you are taking something away from them. And the key to reframe is to look at it from the point of view you have a mission. You have a mission in your business to make the world a better place. You do it in your own unique way. So my mission is to help people to start and grow their business, because I love entrepreneurship, because it is a great way to free yourself in terms of financial freedom, but also, and even more importantly, mind freedom, right? So you can be an independent thinker. This is why I do what I do. And therefore, because I have a strong mission and I know that I can help people, I want to help as many people as possible. And with that, because I know that my mission is good, I'm 100% bought into it, I love what I do. With such a mission, it would be foolish for me to not want to sell to someone if I believe that I can help them. That's crucial. You only should be selling to someone who you know you can help. That's why all these pitch slappers make the mistake of not qualifying anyone. They don't know whether this is a person for whom this is a priority. But once I have established that you are someone who's in the market for my solution, then I will definitely sell you, and I do it perfectly gladly and with absolutely no remorse, because I know that I can get you those amazing results. And this is, if you frame it in this way, not you taking from them, taking money from them, but giving them the opportunity to grow in whichever way that is, whether that's through growing their business, of losing weight, of speaking on stage because you can inspire their audience and so on, whatever it is, you're bringing amazing value into the world. And if you're serious about your mission, it would be foolish for you to hold it back. So don't hold it back from the world, but bring it into it, add it. And that is how once I understood that, and it took me many years to kind of piece that together from many different sources. Once I've understood that, I just completely lost the hesitation to start a conversation and to turn it more commercial. Hey, so I saw that you're doing this and this. How is lead gen going for you? Boom, you're in the conversation. So
I guess it's that fear as well of rejection. You know, it's the old story about being at the school dance and asking the girl for a dance and being rejected. That pervades into sales as well, I've found. And you know, with conversational selling, the rejection is nowhere near as, I guess, harsh as it could be on the phone or at the school dance when the girl just goes like no in front of everybody. So do we have to get better at conversations? Do we have to practice our conversations? Is there a way of improving what we're saying, how we're saying it, to elicit a more favorable response from the prospects that we're reaching out to?
Yes, it's simply a matter of practice. Practice including a solid framework that is underneath it. And the framework that I mean is that every conversation has a natural flow, a natural progression, especially with a stranger, obviously, right? So a conversation with a stranger usually starts with some level of rapport building. Well, you're from Britain originally, and we talk about the weather, right? So you establish a little bit of familiarity by building rapport. And then you go into exploration mode, where you kind of gently transition into the area of, well, let's see if this is a person for whom my service is a priority, or the area that I sell in is a priority, and let's explore. Is this a problem for them? This is the only thing you want to find out in the exploration phase. And they may tell you, and most of the times they tell me implicitly or explicitly, no, this is not an issue I have a problem with, I have enough work, I have enough clients. or this is currently not a priority for me. I'm now looking at other things to improve in the business. So you get plenty of rejection, but it's not a rejection. It's simply they are telling you the truth. This is one thing to also think about. When you're in conversation, you are not trying to sell to them. You are on a mission to find the truth, and the truth of whether they are in the market for your solution or not.
I think that is
So,
the point, isn't it? It's the point of conversation selling is not about going in there like we talked about at the cocktail party. It's about going in there, finding something that you have in common with that person, or maybe that you can, comment on one of their posts. Why is it that people respond to this more than a pitch slap?
well, because you are taking them seriously as people. A pitch slap is treating the other person as a number in a funnel. And sometimes when you're taking more risks when you're having the rapport version, you're risking embarrassment. Maybe you don't hit the tone right. Maybe you make a remark that ticks them off. I'm trying to be quite jocular, so I'm trying to joke quite a lot. And sometimes I just miss the mark, and the person not blocks me, that hasn't happened yet, but they like, oh, this is rude, please don't message me again, or something like this, because I just didn't hit the tone, they were in a bad mood or something like this. I don't remember rude, but essentially where just people say, just please stop, leave me alone, right? So, okay, sometimes mark, it doesn't matter.
And you're going to get people as well with contrary views. I noticed a couple of the conversations that you handled very well. But do these conversations sometimes lead to sales, or is it when someone comes across and says, "Oh yeah, but you could do it this way, you could do it that way"? How do you find that when someone is? Because I know, look, it's not a perfect world, and we wish that everybody had a beautiful personality and a great sense of I guess, like a collaboration and so on and so forth. But how do you handle those situations? Because the reason I say that, Michael, is that I know the fear that reaching out to people puts in people's hearts and minds. And if we can allay that fear, just to let them know a little bit that it's not as bad. I mean, no one's ever said anything really derogatory to me other than asking me a question about the things I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so there's many things to unpack here. First of all, the I don't know which conversation you referred to that was somewhat controversial, but I can tell you of one specific instance where I was really going at it with someone in a comment thread. And by the way, I don't recommend it. It's a waste of time. Nobody goes that deep into a comment thread. So I was just kind of indulging a folly in this case, but I was really going at it with one guy. He just now booked a call for Thursday. Today the booking came in. So anything can happen as long as you do it respectfully and you don't call each other names. Anything can happen, and I try to absolutely always stay extremely respectful, even if with people who I disagree fundamentally with.
Great.
So that's one point. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I'm fine.
And and then the good thing about LinkedIn is, or at least I have, this is my experience, it never goes as personal or as political as it goes on Facebook. That's why one good reason why LinkedIn is preferable to me. People are more professional because there's more at stake, right? So you don't want to go too crazy, whatever, into conspiracy theories and so on, if you know that kind of your professional's reputation is tied up to your profile. So that is my experience, that it stays very civilized.
Okay. So I noticed the post you did, I think it was yesterday, where you said, right, if I was going to start from scratch on LinkedIn, and a lot of people, even though they'll run through the "why don't you go and get" book course, they're still immobilized because, in keynote speaking, there are so many elements to get prepared before they actually go to market. So if someone is starting off, can you maybe give us a shortened version of what they might do with regards to, okay, so they've got 100 connections, they maybe have their profile up. Well, what are some of the steps that they can take to be more effective through the LinkedIn platform?
Okay. Good, very good question. So first of all, I assume that your main goal here is to get new clients rather than build an audience and become a LinkedIn celebrity, right? So it's clients, speaking engagements, whatever it is, but paid work, that is your goal. My suggestion is that the 80% of your results will come from your outreach and how you conduct conversations. Then 20% will come from your content because you simply don't yet have that audience. So what I would do is have a great profile, really optimize the profile so that people really clearly know what you do. You have a clear call to action, ideally a testimonial or two, and you convey social proof in your background image. Have a professional headshot and have a background image, maybe you speaking in front of a crowd as a social proof element. So once that's done, you start adding people. You can add up to 50 people. So focus on those in your target audience. You can find them via Sales Navigator. I recommend that you add them by first looking at their profile, seeing what they are up to, what they're commenting on, what they're posting, and then making a reference to that so that they see that you have actually taken a look at them. You add, let's say, up to 50 people each day, and then you start conversations. As I mentioned, that progression, rapport building, exploration, and once they say at the end of the exploration that they have a problem that you could help them with, offer them a call and emphasize that you don't pitch on calls, right? That tends to be a good method. So this is what I would recommend for outbound. In terms of content, just make sure you have something on there ideally every day. You put out one post that adds value to your audience. Do not make calls to action in that post. Just share stuff that you find interesting that you also know that your target audience will find interesting. And again, the most results will come from your outreach. You can strengthen that by also commenting on people's posts, not just liking them, but also commenting them and leaving thoughtful comments. Something supportive, but maybe something that adds a different angle. This kind of further pads that relationship that you have with the person and will make them much more likely to respond to your conversation. And initially, as you're doing these conversations, aim to simply get them on the phone so you can ask them questions. They're in your target market, and you want them to simply have a conversation so that you understand where that need is so that you can tailor your offer accordingly. And that was what I would recommend that you do if you're completely starting from scratch. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So with regards to your organic content strategy and your LinkedIn outreach activity, what is the balance in time around? How much are you spending a week on each of those?
Good question. I would say I spend, I would say 40% of my time on new client acquisition, and 30% on serving existing clients and 30% on improving the product.
Okay.
That's probably right, yeah.
How does that break down? I mean, are we talking you sitting at the computer and obviously I know that you do do you script your messages, or do you just find something that has come up through the course of your business dealings with your clients and think I really need to pitch that? How do you come up with your bits and pieces that I see all over the internet?
So you mean content or my first messages to people?
Your content, because I know this video aspect is very important. I mean, we talked about Shay Rowbottom, right? I'm actually writing a song at the moment called I Wish I Could Vibe It Like Shay Rowbottom, because I just think she is absolutely, I think she's an oracle in this space. And we both talked about Shay before, and even now I know that, some of her proteges that are coming up like John, and so I'm providing great content for people. And we don't all have the personality of a Shay Rowbottom, but we can certainly learn a lot from them. So that's why I asked you the question, because I do like your posts because they are so articulate. So how do you create your posts, and is there much thought put into it? Is it something that comes from just a spare of the moment sort of a vibe where you go, right, I need to put this down, and you turn the camera on and you do it?
Yeah. So a really important point that I would recommend everybody to do is have one file. I have it as a Google spreadsheet and have it instantly accessible so that you just open a new tab and you just type the name of the file so that you can add an idea, because sometimes an idea comes and you quickly want to put it down, don't lose it, and just put it into that spreadsheet.
Snap. Same here.
Right.
I just wanted to frank that. Absolutely what I do.
Yeah. So that is super key. And in terms of my own videos, I just keep a tally of, for example, here I have these little post-it notes that I have next to the window where I record my videos, and I just, whatever I come up with during the day, I just put it on a post-it note, I put it on that windowsill. And then it takes me probably 3 or 4 attempts. I just speak, I record, and then I record myself, and it takes me 3 to 4 attempts to get it right. And then I just add the captions, which is pretty quick, and then that's it. And the topics, and that's very important, that when you do your own content, the topics need to come from conversations you've had with clients or prospects. Anything that you know that kind of bothers them, or that is an issue for them, or anything that they are wrong about. All right. For example, what was it? Today's post was inspired by something that someone was wrong about. I'm blanking on it, but that's key. Yeah, exactly. That executives tell me very often that they don't have time for LinkedIn. So sometimes I do a bit of a rant saying how silly that is. And that's what I did today. So it always should come informed from your target audience. Never just something that you just come up with, oh, I think that's a great topic. You don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And that post resonated with me because I did comment on that, and I did mention that for people like you and I in this area, it's just a huge opportunity. And I think it pervades from, well, I'm 60, Michael, right? So you don't have to say you only look 40, Terry. That's all right. I don't mind. But I'm well aware of my age group being totally technically inept when it comes to social media. I mean, one of my clients who's not in the speaking came to me and said, I love what you're doing in the speaking space. Can you show me how to do social selling for my business? And, obviously there is a huge market out there for people to learn how to socially sell. And it's not surprising because it's something that's quite new, isn't it, Michael? It's not something that's been around for, particularly the way we're articulating social selling and conversation selling now. So what can we see in the future, and how much business do you think is going to be generated in the future through online selling?
Well, first of all, we have to say that social selling is, I may disagree with you a little bit there. It is new in the form that it is happening, but ultimately, LinkedIn is what you do when you're a good person who works a room, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn is working the room. You come in, you overhear a few people talking about something, you join them, you make a funny comment that makes people at ease and so on. Then you say, oh, I'm just going to go and quickly pick up some carrot sticks. I'll be back. And on the way there, you just meet another group of people. Hey, John, you're awesome. Yo, you look, man, did you lose weight? What the hell? And so on. This is LinkedIn. This is social selling. Okay. And that's why you simply add the digital layer over it, but it is the same thing. And that's what I'm trying to kind of to inculcate in my clients, that you just do what you would do if you're in a really good positive mood at a party where you're just loving your life. And that's why I just love being on LinkedIn, to be honest. So that's just that thing, that it's not completely new. It's just a new format that we're in. So
sure.
Just that as an introduction. What do you think about that? Does that resonate?
It does. It makes perfect sense, because I've been working LinkedIn for a long time now, but not the way we've been working it in the last 12 to 14 months. We have a guy here in Australia. You may want to have a look at some of his material, Kerwin Ray. And I did a Kerwin Ray course around about 5 months ago, I think, with one of the people that we work with, and I learned a heck of a lot from there. It really perked my interest in social selling, what it's about. But Michael, if people want to engage with you, because I know you've got a tremendous course and that you provide great services, what's the best way for anyone out there who's looking to become more proficient in social selling? Because I do not specialize like you do in this area, which is why I wanted to have you on, because I've learned a lot from you. And if you watch some of my shows, you probably think, oh, he's using some of my material. But I always try and give credit where credit's due by having you on the show, but because I definitely have stolen a little bit from Shay and a little bit from Michael and a little bit from this person and so on to try and give the people that I'm working with more value. So how can they engage with you, mate?
Oh, first of all, thank you very much for the compliment. And we all are stealing with pride, right? I mean, this information is out there. As Shay Robot herself has said, there is no new information. Everything is just rehashed and repurposed and recombined and so on. So everything has been out there. So I feel very privileged and honored that if you end up using some of my stuff for yourself, but please feel free, go ahead. It's really all in the implementation rather than the knowing of the how to, right? It's really just the doing, because you're going to make mistakes. So you better make your own mistakes. So I feel honored that you're using my stuff. That said, if somebody wants to work with me, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. Michal Bohanes is my name. You can see it in the bottom section here, Michael without an E. And I'd love to have a chat and see if I can help. Promise no pitching. That's simple as that.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully we can get you on again, maybe next year sometime. You'd like to come on and contribute something else. But thank you very much for being on the show today, Michal Bohanes, and no doubt we'll be talking online and so on and so forth. But in the meantime, have a great day in Austria, mate.
Thank you so much, Terry. Good day.
No worries. See you, mate. Bye-bye. Yeah, mate, really enjoyed that, and I'm sure you got a lot out of it as well. I know sometimes my volume's a little bit down, so you'll have to excuse me. Yeah, well done, Michael. Very good. And I consider Michael as a friend now. We've spent, quite a bit of time together there, and I do really respect what Michael does. He is a very articulate man. I'm sure you agree, and I know you probably got a lot out of it. Okay, so we've come to the end of the show, and I just want to wish everybody a happy festive season or a silly season, however you're going to frame that. Christmas is a time where we can, as I said, take the foot off a little bit for a couple of days, but make sure that you've got your mind on the game, as Laurie Montague says. Keep your mind on the game at all times, and don't let the Christmas lights distract you too much, because next year is a year of opportunity for you as a keynote speaker. There are going to be hybrid events. We're going to really start seeing some of the uplift in virtual events. There's that word again. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish you, your family, and everyone around you a happy Christmas and a very successful new year. This is the last show for the year, but we'll catch up again probably the second week in January. Have a great year, guys, for the rest of the year. Have a wonderful Christmas. Cheers to you, and we'll see you later.
Why don't you go and get booked?